Welcome back here at the Future of Information and Communication Conference. My name is Gerrit Heikop and I'm talking to some of the leading authors of the papers being published here. And in this session, I'm talking to Abraham Campbell about his paper, The Use of Virtual Reality for Communication in Financial Services. You did a case study comparing virtual reality versus traditional video conferencing.
Yes, we did. We were working with Bank of Ireland, which is one of the major banks in Ireland. And the reason we chose the side of financial services to test this is, as an academic, historically, I'm so used to going to conferences and when you go to look at the test subjects they used, it was 18 to 22-year-olds. And yes, my first year students love doing VR, they love doing experiments and that sort of thing. But we wanted to go out to the real world and get literally 20 to 65.
Yeah.
So that was the difference in that. And to really be able to get a large group, we got over 100 participants.
Okay.
We chose the sort of Bank of Ireland that was based in Grand Canal Dock, which is sort of the Silicon Valley hub in Ireland.
Yeah.
So we have Google's main offices, Facebook's biggest international office outside of the USA. So we were able to get people on their lunch breaks come in that had a background in this sort of area and actually got them to test the two differences. They took both things. Some of them did VR first, some of them did the video conference first, and the results we thought were very, very surprising. So we were very happy on them.
Before you get into the results, what
Yeah.
type of meetings were being conducted?
So what we were experimenting there. My second hat is I'm the Chief Technology Office for Meeting Rooms, so it's a company that designs digital spaces like this. So in this case, we were doing the sort of one-on-one meetings. It's not the exact test for our product. Our product is normally better if there's 3 people in the room, but we just wanted this initial test of a meet and greet, just talk about one topic. So they weren't given a topic, they had to come up with themselves.
Okay.
And they had to, in the VR thing, they just had to shake hands. They had to acknowledge that the person was there.
So to some extent, it was quite a laboratory setting. It was
very laboratory. We managed to isolate the two different groups, so they were fully isolated. We were quite lucky. Grand Connaught Bank of Ireland actually has a sort of an L shape, so we could properly put somebody over 50 meters away from the other because of that. So there'd be no sound traveling or anything. So it was actually quite perfect in that regard.
Now, I guess we're all curious to know, what did you find?
So what we found, the hypothesis we had that we kind of confirmed were that people did feel closer. They did feel like they were actually having a real meeting.
In virtual reality.
In virtual reality. It had a bit of a problem because what they would tend to do is start talking about personal things. Although it was quite a laboratory session, it was still an operational bank.
Yeah.
So we did have to stop 2 participants because they were mentioning very personal stuff. And you're like, there's a guy taking money out from a teller over there. That's not what you want to be discussing in private there.
Okay.
So they felt closer. They were more focused in the meetings. They weren't being distracted. As your things today, as you said, us on our mobile phones, and I've got mine in airplane mode now. So they weren't being distracted on that. And then in terms of their actual experience, was it a positive or negative experience? It was quite interesting. We had assumed that in general the male participants would be sort of gun-ho technology and they'd love it. And I think if I did it in a university setting with university-age kids, I think they would have got that result. But with these guys, they actually didn't like it. They were neutral to dislike. We got lines like one of our participants told us in the virtual room, because of the way it was set up, he couldn't physically intimidate the person.
And that's what he liked to do.
And what he liked to do in video conference was he'd make him seem bigger by moving the camera closer. And
I'm learning stuff about video conferencing.
And he felt that all the tricks that he had learned, that these ways of manipulating, he couldn't do. Now, obviously, I'm glad this is anonymous. You are a horrible human being. But I do not know who he is.
Okay.
That's part of our GDPR in Europe. All his results got deleted.
Yeah.
And then likewise with females, we got an incredible positive result of the VR experience. Now, we knew there might be a positive thing there because there's been a lot of research from Microsoft that has shown that women take a wider view. Their physical eyes have a larger field of view. So virtual reality is actually, and the setups, once you have a large 100-degree field of view, it's a better experience for women. They actually, in performance tasks, they equal men. So if you just use a straight monitor and for a 15 or 17-inch display and you give a navigational task to a woman versus a man, and it is statistically the man will do better. But if you give a very large display, men and women will perform better both and equally. So we thought there'd be something there, but we also didn't realize was the women felt it debiased it. They felt people weren't judging them by their looks. They were like, if I had to do video
in the VR environment.
In the VR environment compared to the video conference. And just to say, we made sure the video conference got the best deal. We actually got Air Fiber to put in a set 10 megabit broadband connection.
Yeah.
We used Skype for Business.
So
we
it
made
was
sure
like someone was there for real, but 2D.
we did it as best as we could.
And then in the VR environment, they were an avatar.
They were an avatar. So
Something like themselves or a random avatar?
They were a random avatar because we kind of wanted to be sort of neutral. So there was one female avatar, one male avatar, which did lead to people kind of wanting to. And there was a mirror in the room so they could kind of see themselves and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we also were sort of also trying to test in a financial service market what issues there would be. So there's a privacy issue that a lot of the headsets use cameras.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a big problem going forward for the financial industry. They can't have a camera in the room to use the tracking. So the tracking for like the likes of HTC Vive, using the infrared trackers, that actually works a lot better. So we were really, really enthused by this sort of response because we actually saw that virtual meetings can go well. And over the last year and a half since this experiment, we've made connections. Facebook and ourselves are going to partner with a few test companies to do more experiments to see how this is working. I'll be through Meeting Room that will be doing that, in conjunction with my virtual reality lab in UCD, where we're providing a lot of the staff that goes into there and a lot of the academic experience to do the experiments.
Interesting, interesting. So you learned that the VR experience definitely saw some benefits. I can imagine that one of the big drawbacks must be costs, right, of infrastructure and the whole setup. So how is that related? Did you learn anything about that? My question actually is, when is it worthwhile?
Yeah, that's exactly. It's the return of investment, and that's the sort of experiments that we're going to be working with Facebook, with University College Dublin, Meeting Room and Facebook, and look at partnerships with set companies. We've already got agreements with them to actually find that return on investment. Because when do you not have to get in a plane and travel all the way to San Francisco? Yeah. But what we think, our general hypothesis is the first meeting, meet in person. We're not getting rid of those meetings. And the end meeting, meet in person. But there's lots of those in-between meetings that we think could actually be conducted under VR. And what their added benefit that we've also found was one thing that came from people we talked to was presence in the room and persistence. Okay. So if I've worked on a whiteboard together, that stays there, that's a room that I can come back to, and then
in the VR environment.
In the future. And further experiments that we aren't reporting on today, we've actually found that a lot of this effects that we found from the VR is just spatial effects. So you can actually have a mobile phone or a desktop get most of these effects as long as you're wearing headphones and as long as the audio is spatial. So you can actually have 3 or 4 people in the room. So we're experimenting with those platforms as well as looking at the new things like Oculus Quest, which is a very low cost. I mean, you're looking at $300-400, and over the next 2-3 years, that's going to drop to $100-150. And actually, this becomes very realistic for somebody in a workplace to just have it there, put on, have the meeting, put down.
Interesting.
And we also, unlike a lot of our competitors, a lot of people in the market, we think 15-minute meetings are the way to go. You are not going to sit your entire lives in VR.
Exactly.
It's not a good idea.
It's a shorter meetings.
It's shorter meetings.
But somehow it's better than the video conferencing because the conversation gets more meaningful and personal.
More focused. It's the more focused and you feel closer together. Those both hypotheses. For men, unfortunately, at the moment, they're neutral. That's we haven't found. We can't say they're neutral. We can't say either way because we didn't get the data. But for women, it's definitely more positive, and it's the de-biasing. We think this could be the best tool to interview people in the world to get rid of racial biases, sex biases, and that's what we think it's going to be actually regulatory in the next 5-10 years.
Wow, impressive! You heard it here first at FICC. Now, Abraham, final question: you did travel all the way from Ireland to San Francisco. To those folks who've never been at a FICC conference, could you explain what made you come over here?
Well, it was mostly the SII group in general. These are sort of interdisciplinary conferences, so it's kind of an interesting way that you can get a broad knowledge from different fields. We sent one of our papers to the Future Tech Conference that you guys also run 2 years ago. It got well cited. We got lots of networking, and that literally is it. It's our metrics. If you get cited, then you're like, yeah, that's a good conference we can take on. And if you get the right networking, which we did, a lot of the influence there made it worth it to go again.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you want to be a part of this, and if you're curious about all the innovations being presented here, make sure you check out the SAI conference website. Hit subscribe right now here on YouTube so you'll be the first to know when a new video comes out. And I guess Abraham and I are looking forward to meet you in person at one of our future conferences.